You won't believe what Patton said to Montgomery about clearing the way. And that line lit a fuse that turned a slog into a sprint, a political scrap into a headline, and a disputed road into a proving ground for a new kind of American army. July 1943. Operation Husky is rolling across Sicily. On paper, the plan is tidy. Field Marshal Bernard Montgomery's British Eighth Army will push up the east coast, seize key points, and take Messina. General George S. Patton's Seventh Army will secure the west and keep the enemy from slipping away. In practice, mountains, bad weather, blown bridges, and stubborn German defenses around Mount Etna have slowed Montgomery. Frustrated, he redraws boundaries and essentially asks, some would say orders, Patton to clear the road for his advance. That demand is more than logistics. It reads like a demand for deference. Fall back, take a supporting role, let the British reach the glory of Messina first. If you're into WW2 stories, subscribe for more. This is the kind of clash you won't want to miss. Patton's response, according to accounts, was explosive. He reportedly spat, "To hell with the plan." That line wasn't just profanity. It was a public refusal to accept a subordinate role in a campaign where he believed American forces needed to prove themselves. He wasn't merely arguing tactics. He was defending pride, momentum, and the claim that the Seventh Army would not be a stagehand for someone else's curtain call. Supreme Allied Commander Harold Alexander didn't hand Patton carte blanche. What Patton got was permission to probe forward, a reconnaissance in force, a limited green light. Patton took that paper permission and treated it like a starting pistol. What followed looked less like careful coalition warfare and more like a dare. The Seventh Army ran. For 3 days the tempo was extraordinary. Men slept in trucks, engineers worked feverishly rebuilding blasted bridges, tanks didn't wait for roads, they crossed fields, shredded hedgerows, and improvised their own paths. Where rivers had been mined and tunnels collapsed, American engineers, the sappers who fixed the battlefield's plumbing, bridged the gap or rerouted the column. Amphibious teams put troops ashore to outflank choke points. Radios crackled with terse updates. Commanders on the ground improvised. The result was a blistering operational tempo, long distances covered in short time, units that usually took days to coordinate now moving like a single organism. Palermo fell, and with it came press photographs and sensation. The capture of Sicily's capital was more than a tactical trophy. It was proof that American forces could move, strike, and take strategic objectives quickly and visibly. Journalists ate it up. In a war where perception mattered almost as much as position, the image of U.S. columns rolling into towns, engines steaming and banners raised, fed a narrative of momentum. That narrative mattered to Washington, to London, and to soldiers on the road who suddenly felt they were part of something decisive. Meanwhile, north along the island, the race to Messina turned from military necessity into a matter of prestige. Montgomery cast the push as a national honor. For British public morale, the timing mattered. Patton publicly treated it as a horse race. He issued short, sharp orders, drive, don't wait, and in one of those lines that survive because they sound like they were made to be shouted across a field, he reportedly told his men, "I want you to drive until the engines melt." Whether literal or rhetorical, the image stuck. Keep going until the machine stops and then keep going some more. It wasn't just swagger. There were real problems to solve. Bridges fell to German demolition teams. Supply lines lengthened and became vulnerable. Commanders had to balance the mad dash against the risk of overstretch. Friendly fire incidents happened in the fog of rapid operations. Coordination in coalition warfare is hard when one army runs at a different tempo from another. Still, the Seventh Army's speed had strategic effects. German units, already stretched and demoralized, found fewer safe routes to retreat, and the narrative advantage shifted. Photographs of American troops captured attention back home and softened criticism of earlier setbacks. And then came the climax that the papers loved: Messina. Patton rolled into town, took control of the port approaches, and waited. British columns, advancing more cautiously and hampered by their own route problems, arrived roughly an hour later. According to contemporary accounts, Patton greeted the dusty British officer with a line that reads like theatrical payoff. "Hello there. Where have you been? We've been waiting for you." It was a mic drop moment, a barb wrapped in hospitality, and the cameras loved it. For a public watching over stretched cables and frontline dispatches, the image of an American general nonchalantly counting his British counterpart's tardiness became shorthand for a new American audacity. That moment is exactly the reveal promised by the title. The exchange was less a private insult and more a public statement of who would set the tempo. Patton's quip, and the bigger to hell with the plan posture, communicated a willingness to gamble on speed, initiative, and the kind of rough improvisation that can win headlines and territory, sometimes at great cost. And there was cost. Patton's style, audacious and abrasive, produced results but also produced wounds. He pushed men hard. There are accounts of exhausted troops pushed to the limits of endurance, of claustrophobic convoys, and improvised marches that frayed nerves and discipline. More damningly, Patton's personal misconduct, most famously, 2 incidents in which he slapped soldiers suffering battle fatigue, surfaced not long after Sicily. Those slaps were not colorful anecdotes you could shrug off. They were misconduct with consequences, public outrage, investigation, and a near-career-ending reprimand. The slapping episode stripped some of the sheen from Patton's images as a tactical genius. They forced Allied leaders to confront the ethical line between motivating troops and abusing them. You can admire the audacity and still decry the behavior. They are not mutually exclusive. In the larger sweep, Sicily did more than test personalities. It showcased the growing operational mobility of the U.S. Army, logistics that could keep a fast-moving force fed and fueled, engineering units that could rebuild routes almost as fast as they were demolished, commanders willing to take initiative within coalition politics. It forced Allied command to accommodate different tempos of warfare and to reckon with the fact that PR and prestige could influence operational choices. Montgomery's insistence on Messina, Patton's refusal to be second fiddle, Alexander's uneasy role as referee, all of that shaped not just who took which town, but how coalition warfare would be managed in the campaigns to come. So what do we take from this? Patton's salty phrase and theatrical greeting tell us something essential about war. Strategy is as much about personality and perception as it is about maps and supply lines. Speed can win towns and headlines. Boldness can compensate for coordination problems. But audacity that disregards welfare or discipline brings moral and professional penalties. Patton's dash to Messina boosted American prestige and proved operational capability, but it also sowed controversy that nearly cost him his command. What do you think? Brilliant leadership or reckless ego? Tell us in the comments. If you want more deep dives into these command clashes, click to watch our video on the Sicilian campaign's testing of Allied command. The road to Messina was more than asphalt and orders. It was a collision of wills, a media moment, and a crude test of what modern armies could do when someone decided to stop asking for permission and start counting miles. Which side of that line do you stand on?